continuing with this lovely big house, I have noticed that the roof at the end is not quite horizontal. Sometimes this happens even though I have put the artwork on the correct curve. Sometimes it can go a little bit skew, and so I double check. And so in this case I have just quickly run the pen on a parallel, and I am roughly going to map in what is actually straight. It just was sticking out like a sore thumb to me. I didn't like it, and I just wanted to adjust it slightly. So there is quite a lot to do, but it's virtually a case of colouring in, really. Now you can see I've started a little bit there. I'm using a green stone, and I am just dotting it about the trees, adding a little half tone, going over the bits of clear glass, and also blending into little bits of the diamond work that's already there. It just adds a bit of a half tone, a bit of 3D effect going on. Certainly not covering up all the blank glass. When it comes to the houses, as I've mentioned before, I use a completely different technique to my other engraving, and I like the extreme contrast of light and dark and light, and leaving bits of clear glass, which I would never normally do, as you know. But I find that it is the most efficient way, probably easy if you know me, easier way to create the engraving of a house, and relatively accurately to get all the teeny tiny little details in the background. Sometimes there are little sets of garden furniture behind some bushes in front of the house, and behind that is like a little creeper on the wall. And if you were to try and intaglio engrave all that lot, you would just be left with a pile of bumbled mess. And you wouldn't really be able to make out what each thing is, because you might be talking about something that's a few millimeters, 2 millimeters, maybe even 1 millimeter, a little chair in the background, and it's just not clear. But by doing it this way, with this method, you can really get quite a lot of very, very small detail. The tiniest little shape in the background can mean a lot to the person. There might be, for example, a pot plant that's a particular shape of pot that the Auntie Jane gave them 20 years ago. You know what I mean? It's a special pot. And if that tiny little shape is in the background, a noticeable shape, even though it might be 2 millimeters wide, they will see it. And this is the easiest way to show it. Anyway, there are no pots in this particular picture. It's lots of foliage, lots of creepers, creepers up the sides of the walls and that sort of thing. So I've still got the green stone, and I'm literally, obviously, copying what I see in the photograph next to the glass, it's out of shot, but I'm just copying and colouring. These are bushes. I mean, I try and create movement and a rough idea of shapes within the bush, if you know what I mean. A little bit tricky, but that is obviously a darker bush that I was working on. as opposed to something much brighter, and that can be shaded and highlighted. So back to some of the bushes and trees on the other side, well, this end of the house, still carrying on with some halftones. This entire video is sped up, mostly 120%. There's one little section that will be, I think, 140% of normal speed. An interesting little hedge along the front. And there is actually a fence effect going on. And just by leaving a few tiny little gaps, you will see the effect of the fence quite clearly. And without too much of a headache. So let's tackle this speckled roof effect. I've got the greenstone and I am just holding it quite lightly, running it relatively slowly, and just colouring in along the top. And this will slightly soften the speckles. I mean, there are a lot of speckles on the roof. Well, all of them, all the roofs. But this blends them in a little bit. I'm also just leaving them slightly enhanced, the speckle effect. I am enjoying the extreme contrasts that are in the picture. Here I have the diamond burr that is diamond all the way down, which, as you know, we use for carving into the sides of the glass. I'm kind of using it on the side, and I am just scraping in some grassy effects. I've just noticed that the upright, if you were to draw a line from bottom to top, it is now straight along that side. The little bits of grass show between the areas, and yeah, I'm just pointing out that there's diamond all the way down. But in the photograph, there's little bits of grass in between the flowery, bushy little things that's still there. So I'm making sure that I've got those little bits of contrasting texture. You could do this with, well, I suppose you could use a rat's tail, and if you've got a lot of patience. But I don't have a lot of patience, and I just certainly don't have a lot of time. And even when I was young and I painted a lot, I much preferred to paint very, very fast. I just felt it looked more arty, and it didn't look too fussy. There are still tiny little gaps in between these little bits of grass. And in the picture, in the foreground grass, there was darker and lighter areas of the grass. So So just a little bit of variety, a little bit of movement. Again, just checking that upright is pretty much even. So if you were to stand it on a table with a set square standing upright, that line needs to be straight up. So adding in some grassy areas in the background, you can see I've sort of outlined where I have to colour in. The only thing when you are working dry is that you're forever having to wipe away the little bits of dust. So I've actually just filled in that little panel with a diamond. You can see a white panel, but I decided straight away to neaten the little corners with a rat's tail. A slightly smaller diamond I'm using for this panel. You can see how I have created the panel. The panel's ready to colour in, as it were, on this part of the house. Anything that you're not sure about at a later stage, you can go back and if you need to make something dark, use a white arkansas and polish it. But it's usually pretty straightforward. Now, it was interesting. You didn't expect me to do that, did you? In the photograph, for some reason, this window was very, very light. And okay, it probably meant that there were light curtains and the light was reflecting the sky and whatever, and you know, that window showed up very, very white. So I decided, fine, I must do as as the photograph showed, and I've made it very, very white. So here are the very white panels of wall. Well, they're just the wall, and you will see where we left the clear glass for the beams, which now suddenly appear very clearly. Starting to look like a proper house now. It's quite a biggish diamond for very neat little corners, so that's why I have outlined as neat as I can initially with the very small diamond, but what I will do is just double check them all and sharpen the corners with a rat's tail later on. There was a little bit of white building disappearing into the trees. I don't know what that little triangle is, but it's there, and so it's got to go in. A very sharp little rat's tail here. It's a different sort of rat's tail. It's a 1.6 millimeter shank, very small diamond, not as long as the normal rat's tail, but same sort of thing. Very carefully adding in some skinny little window frames. It's important to get the right number of panels in the window. So what I've done is I have just double checked the parallel at the bottom of the grass. That felt funny. That felt funny saying the bottom of the grass, because I automatically wanted to say glass. I had to really force myself to say grass. Anyway. Okay, just leveling off so it looks a little bit neater, more professional. So you know how to do that. Just put a pen against a pile of books or an upright stand, as we have done, as I've showed you in one of the videos. And just hold the pen against the glass and turn the glass, and that will give you a lovely straight line, parallel line. Sometimes you're given a photograph that's got, say, like a car parked in the front, or you see the front end of a car peeping into the photograph. Remove the car and just make up a bit of grass or something. I would never, ever include a car in the picture unless I am specifically asked to do so. Right, lovely hard rubber again. It disappeared. Now that area of the house is dark. The walls are a darker finish. They're not lovely white paint. So I have decided to use this quite abrasive rubber, which is an excellent black rubber. And it leaves a lovely hue, while at the same time slightly rubbing and blending and softening the diamond work. I'm not pressing that hard, to be honest. It is very abrasive. When you look at the rubber and turn it to the light, it's got tiny little sparkles in it. Very effective also in the trees. It just darkens the softened area. But be careful not to cover all the blank glass. I really like to stress that in this technique. There must be a lot of blank glass. I know you're all saying, but Leslie, you always say, don't leave holes in the glass. It is true. I do always say that. But you just have to do it for the buildings. Now, I would like to use the white Arkansas here, but I wanted to sharpen, when I say sharpen, flatten the top. So as you can see, I'm using the underside of a lovely big diamond. And it is the side that you just about never use. The only time you would probably use that is on a really... No, actually, gosh, I can't even really think of a time. Maybe around grinding down the top of a glass or something. But so at the shank end of the diamond, you're going to get really fresh diamonds that have never been used. So that can be used to flatten the top of, or even sharpen to a point, your stones and rubbers. You've seen me using the white block, which is a sharpening tool. I forget what it's called now. Anyway, you can get them at hardware stores. It's just a sharpening block. But using the back of a diamond is just as effective. So you saw that I had just cut into the uprights of the fence using the white Arkansas, and now I am doing the same along the parallel parts of the fence. On the uprights, I was going just next to the diamond, or just leaving a little bit of the shine of the white diamond on the side, and it's a really nice fence effect. Makes it instantly 3D. It's important to just go and look for the tiniest little areas that need a little sharp touch-up. It does make a big difference. And of course, these were the dark climbers up the side of, I think they're the climbers, they might just be big bushes in front of it, but they were dark with a lot of highlight on the top. So using this little tiny rat's tail, I can add highlight to the tops of the bushes. And where I've got a bit heavy-handed with the white Arkansas, I'm just adding in that little side highlight. So I might have taken too much of the diamond away when I used it. Interesting, I've just noticed the halftones that I've done in that building where it has dark walls. It's almost like it's a little bit not textured, but maybe a little bit rough in areas that it's slightly lighter and dark, and I'm just leaving it like that. So here I'm once again going over the roof. I've just decided it needed to be maybe blended down a little bit more, but it's not really making much difference. Tell you what, a good burr to use for this, I could have used like a brown stone or a pink stone, which is slightly more abrasive, and probably would have done that job quite well from start to finish. It's funny seeing creepers on the side of the house. While they look really pretty in England, if you had creepers on the side of your house in Africa, they made wonderful homes for snakes and spiders, probably mainly spiders, and you don't really want to go there. Because spiders in Africa are quite enormous monsters. Oh, dearie me. So no, not many people had creepers on the sides of the house. So you can see that I used the rat's tail there to add in some little panes to that light window. And on the other window, it was showing a bit of reflection, a sort of a lighter reflection. So I'm just whizzing the white Arkansas at an angle across there, giving it an almost cartoon type window effect. There was that join that I just decided to soften ever so slightly using the white Arkansas. These are sort of tall leaves that go with the flowers that were the sort of little blobs that you saw on the left-hand side rather, and you see these tall leaves carrying on along the front of the lawn actually. And then doing some tiny little areas of half-tone bits of grass, just for that added something. And a signature, of course. And there you can see the sandblasting I had done prior to the hand engraving. And there you have it. This is such a beautiful crystal. Look how clear it is looking through to the back. Houses and churches, things like that, make a lovely subject for gifts, for weddings, for example. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you can make use of it. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time. Bye for now.